the child of the pulsar. The Federation scout ship found the anomaly at 0400 hours, a radiation signature from the pulsar zone that didn't match any known stellar phenomenon. It matched a child, specifically a 3-year-old girl named Alara's son, floating in open space without a suit, without oxygen, without any of the biological requirements that kept human beings alive and laughing. In her hands, a ball of pure plasma, blue-white, rotating, the temperature of a small sun. She was playing. The scout ship extended its tractor beam. Alara looked at it with the mild curiosity of a toddler encountering a new toy. She reached out. The tractor beam died. The ship's warp core went cold in 0.8 seconds. The crew froze, literally, the temperature dropping to -40 in the same 0.8 seconds. She'd eaten their heat. The Federation scout filed one report before their emergency systems restored power. The children are singularities. There is no safe engagement. The designation was a dry, bureaucratic encoding of something genuinely extraordinary. A pulsar located 2,283 light-years from Earth, rotating 0.714 times per second with the mechanical precision of a cosmic clock, emitting beams of electromagnetic radiation that swept through space like the beam of a lighthouse built by something with no interest in shipping lanes. It had been the first pulsar ever detected by human instruments in 1967 by a graduate student named Jocelyn Bell, who had mistaken it, briefly, for an alien signal. The universe's single greatest practical joke. It had been catalogued, studied, and eventually treated with the benign familiarity of something too large and too old and too far away to be immediately relevant to the problems of daily life. The Hydra project had made it immediately relevant. The theory was Unipax, developed in her last 6 weeks of lucid work before the pulmonary fibrosis had advanced enough to require continuous respiratory support. The cellular restructuring of the Hydra protocol, she'd argued, had been designed. The locks, the 17 gaps, the whole evolutionary architecture, for an environment that normal Earth conditions could only approximate. Human cells, she believed, had been built for intensity, for environments where energy was abundant and extreme and continuous, where the difference between life and death was a question of how efficiently you could process raw cosmic power. The pulsar zone was intense. She had proposed using the pulsar's radiation environment to tune Hydra protocol modified cells, to push the restructure biology further than Earth's relatively gentle energy environment could manage, to find what the protocol was capable of when the power source was not a planet, but a star's electromagnetic death rattle. The ethics review had been complicated. The test subject had been unplanned. Her name was Alara Sunday, 3 years, 4 months, and 17 days old at the time of the incident. Born in Shanghai to parents who were among the facility's medical staff. Her father, Dr. Wei's son, ran the biometric monitoring division. Her mother, Dr. Priya's son, Nay Anand, was a cellular biology specialist who had been part of the team that first mapped the 17 genomic locks in detail. Alara had been born and gestated and developed her first 6 months of life in Facility 7, in an environment saturated, carefully monitored, allegedly safely, with the low-level residual electromagnetic output of the facility's multiple Hydra protocol subjects. In an environment where David Reyes's bioluminescence had been a permanent ambient feature for the first 6 months of her life, where Eris Thorne's network consciousness expansion occasionally produced detectable neural field harmonics in the surrounding space, where the baseline radiation environment of the facility was measurably and consistently different from anywhere else on Earth. She'd had her first complete sentence at 14 months. She'd rearranged the metallic elements in a dish of cell culture medium by looking at it at 18 months. Not intentionally. Wei had turned away for 3 seconds and turned back to find the iron, magnesium, and zinc content of the culture arranged in a perfect geometric pattern. He'd assumed he'd misread the original configuration. He'd been wrong. She'd never been administered the Hydra protocol. She hadn't needed it. She'd been born with the locks open. The decision to take Alara into the pulsar zone was not a decision that anyone in Facility 7 made, recorded, approved, or would later be comfortable discussing in any formal capacity. What happened was quieter than that. Dr. Priya's son had been running modified cellular exposure tests in a small research pod, a stripped-down transport vehicle modified to carry cell culture samples into high-radiation environments. And Alara had been with her, as she often was, because the facility's childcare arrangements were, like most things in a secret underground laboratory, focused on rewriting human biology, not quite adequate. Priya had strapped Alara into the observation seat. It had a window. Alara liked windows. The pod had entered the radiation fringe of PSR, B1919 plus 21's emission zone, and Alara's sun had lit up. Not metaphorically. The monitoring sensors in the pod, calibrated for the cell culture samples, registered an immediate and total electromagnetic output spike from the seat where the 3-year-old was sitting that was approximately 200 times the baseline output of a Hydra Protocol-modified adult human. Her skin went from normal to luminous in 0.3 seconds. Not the cold blue-white of David Reyes, but something warmer, more gold, more solar, like the color of light filtered through a closed eyelid. She laughed, not scared, not confused. The specific, pure, uncomplicated laugh of a 3-year-old encountering a sensation they find delightful, which in this case was the sensation of their cellular biology absorbing raw pulsar radiation and converting it with an efficiency that no instrument the pod carried had the scale to measure. She pressed her hand against the window. Outside the window, the pod's metallic hull began to glow. Priya's son had made 3 calls in the 17 seconds between Alara lit up and oh God, what is happening? Call 1 way. Voicemail. Call 2. Dr. Vasquez. She's absorbing the radiation. All of it. The sensors are. I need you to see this. Call 3. Facility. Emergency line. This is Dr. Priya's son in Research Pod 7. I need a pickup. We're in the pulsar fringe. Alara is. She's. I need a pickup. The emergency pickup was 37 minutes away. In those 37 minutes, 2 things happened. First, Alara, utterly uninterested in the technical implications of her biology, discovered that she could shape the energy she was absorbing. Not with training, not with instruction, with the specific casual curiosity of a child who has found something interesting in a tide pool and is now poking it to see what it does. The radiation she was absorbing, and she was absorbing all of it, every particle the pulsar zone delivered, her body treating a stellar electromagnetic pulse the way a normal child might treat sunlight, was being processed, filtered, and expressed. The expression, initially, took the form of heat, then light, then, in the pod's small observation compartment, something more structured. She pressed her palms together. Between them, plasma, blue-white at first, the color that seemed to be the Hydra Protocol's default for expressed energy, then warming, deepening, brightening, the color shifting through the electromagnetic spectrum as she played with the compression and release of it, a toddler figuring out how to squeeze paint from a tube. She made a ball, held it between her hands, turned it. It rotated with the slow, self-contained certainty of a small star, heated to approximately 3 million Kelvin, contained entirely within the spatial field her hands were generating without any contact with the pod's interior. Priya's son pressed herself against the opposite wall of the compartment and stared. Alara, she said very carefully. Alara looked up. The ball of plasma kept rotating between her hands. Her expression was the same one she made when she'd figured out how to work the tablet her father had given her. The specific satisfaction of a mind that had just understood something and was now doing it on purpose. Hot, Alara said. 3-year-old's vocabulary. Cosmic power. Yes, baby. That's hot. Hot. Yes. Priya's voice was extraordinarily steady, given the circumstances. You are. Second thing that happened in those 37 minutes. The Federation scout ship arrived. FSU, Recon, 441. A small 2-crew observation vessel assigned to monitor the Sol system's outer radiation boundaries had been tracking an anomalous electromagnetic signature from the pulsar zone for approximately 20 minutes when its instruments confirmed the signature source. The readings were consistent with a modified Hydra Protocol biological output. They'd been given the signatures to watch for, but at a scale and intensity that the ship's AI classified as improbable. Possible instrument malfunction, the AI suggested. Recommend visual confirmation. The crew, a Thessian navigator and an Andric sensor specialist, had brought the ship in for visual confirmation and found a 3-year-old floating in open space. Not in the pod. In the 33rd minute of the 37, Alera-san had looked at the pod's observation window with an expression of mild determination, pressed her palm against it, and simply passed through, not breaking the material. The window was intact, undamaged, not so much as a crack, but through it, her cellular structure phasing through the glass with an ease that suggested the concept of physical barriers had not been introduced to her biology as a meaningful category. She was floating in the pulsar fringe, unprotected, unsuited, unenclosed, and entirely fine. The radiation that would have killed a standard human in approximately 11 seconds was being absorbed, processed, converted. She was, the scout ship's instruments confirmed, with increasing computational discomfort, producing more energy than she was receiving, running on some biological principle that the ship's AI categorized as thermodynamically impossible, and then quietly revised the categorization to thermodynamically unprecedented. She was playing with a plasma ball in the vacuum of space. She was laughing. Priya's son was inside the pod, pressed against the wall, watching her daughter through the window her daughter had just walked through, alternating between terror and the particular maternal pride that has no adequate language. The scout crew extended the tractor beam. It was standard procedure, uncontained biological entity in hazardous space environment. A reflex, the kind of action that gets taken before it gets thought about, because thinking about it might reveal that bringing the entity aboard was not, given the instrument readings they were currently producing, a course of action with a favorable risk profile. Alera looked at the tractor beam with the mild curiosity of a toddler encountering a new toy. It was a coherent gravitational electromagnetic field, designed to grip and move objects with precision. To Alera's son, floating in the radiation fringe of a pulsar with a ball of compressed plasma between her hands, it was a texture in the electromagnetic environment she currently inhabited. A new one. She reached toward it. Her hand touched the beam. She ate it. Not the visible light component, the underlying energy. The coherent gravitational field that gave the tractor beam its function was food to her biology, and she processed it with the unhesitating efficiency of a system encountering a familiar fuel source in a new container. The tractor beam died in 0.8 seconds. The power draw required to maintain it had been routed from the ship's warp core. When she ate the beam, she ate the connection. When she ate the connection, the power draw spike propagated backward through the ship's systems. The warp core went cold in 0.8 seconds. The interior temperature of the ship dropped to -40 in the same 0.8 seconds. She'd eaten their heat. The crew didn't die. The ship's emergency thermal systems, battery-powered, independent of the warp core, activated in 1.2 seconds and began restoring temperature. The core restarted on backup power. The crew were cold, shaken, and deeply reconsidering their career choices, but alive. The sensor specialist filed the report in the 17 minutes it took the ship to restore full power and achieve safe distance. Incident Report FSU, Recon 441. Sol System Pulsar Fringe, PSRB 1919+21. Encountered biological entity consistent with modified Hydra class output at scale classified Zenith Plus, exceeding all existing Zenith classifications. Entity, Terran class 7 juvenile. Estimated age 3 to 4 standard cycles. Entity was operating freely in hard vacuum, pulsar radiation zone, without protective equipment. Entity demonstrated radiation absorption, plasma generation and manipulation, phasing through solid matter, and electromagnetic field consumption. Entity drained ship warp core in less than 1 standard second through physical contact with tractor field. Entity showed no hostile intent. Entity was playing. Recommend immediate reassessment of Zenith classification framework. Current framework does not accommodate the possibility that the juvenile generation of Terran class may 7th be born at this capacity. If Terran class 7 adult subjects represent the first generation of Hydra modifications, and juvenile subjects are born at Zenith Plus capacity, the next generation does not need the protocol. The next generation is born as what the first generation is becoming. We may not have 41 months. We may not have 14. The modification of this species is no longer a project. It has become a process. And processes do not stop when you remove the project team. Recommend immediate council review. Classification, existential. The report was transmitted at 0.3C to the nearest Federation relay. In Facility 7, in the 37th minute of the incident, the emergency pickup reached the pod. Dr. Vasquez, aboard the pickup vehicle, found Priya-san pressed against the wall with the expression of someone who had experienced something that had restructured their understanding of what was possible. Alara was back inside the pod. She'd walked back through the window the same way she'd walked out of it. She was sitting in her observation seat, the plasma ball gone, absorbed back in her own cellular field when she'd lost interest in it, and she was looking at the window with the thoughtful expression of a child who has decided they want to do that again. "She's unharmed," Priya said, in the tone of a person who has been saying the same sentence to themselves for 37 minutes as a meditation technique. "She's completely unharmed. Her vitals are..." She gestured at the pod's monitoring display, which showed Alara's biological readings in a column of green indicators. Every measurement optimal. "She's better than unharmed. She's better than when we started." "The radiation," Vasquez began. "She ate it." Priya's voice was flat. "All of it. She ate the pulsar zone and made a toy out of it, and then walked through the hull of the pod because she wanted to play in space. She looked at her daughter, and then an alien scout ship found her and tried to grab her with a tractor beam. What happened to the ship? She ate that too." A pause. "The heat." Vasquez looked at Alara. Alara looked back at Vasquez with the clear, direct, unself-conscious gaze of a 3-year-old who has not yet learned to moderate the intensity of her attention. "Ah," Alara said, helpfully. "Yeah," Vasquez said. "Yeah, I bet." In the Federation Council chamber, 3 light minutes from their nearest relay, a special session had been convened within 12 hours of the scout ship's report. The chamber was designed for ceremony. Its architecture communicated the weight of 11 millennia of governance, the high ceilings and precise geometries of civilization that had written history long enough to know what history looked like when it turned. High Commander Tessera Veln, the Council's senior military authority, read the incident report aloud to the assembled Council body. Her voice, processed through the chamber's acoustic system, carried the calm of someone delivering information whose implications were too large to be communicated through inflection. She finished. The chamber was silent for a full 8 seconds, unprecedented in the Council's recorded meeting history. "The juvenile," said Council Elder Merrick Ohm, the oldest member of the body at approximately 400 standard cycles. "It was not administered the protocol." "No," Veln confirmed. "The protocol was administered to adults. The juvenile is born to a modified adult. The capacity appears to be heritable, amplified, not inherited directly. She's operating at a higher baseline than her parents." Out. The cellular restructuring of the Hydra protocol, based on recovered data from their facilities, makes permanent heritable changes to the genome. The children of protocol subjects don't receive the 17 locked sequences. They receive 17 open sequences from birth. Almost quiet. "Then the protocol subjects," he said, very carefully, "are not the threat. No, the protocol subjects are the bridge. Yes, the children are the destination." Veln kept her voice level. "The Federation has always assumed our intervention window closed when the first protocol subjects were activated. That was our error. The protocol subjects are the transitional generation. The children are born to the destination the protocol describes." She set down the report. "The child in the pulsar zone is 3 years old. At 3 years old, she can absorb stellar radiation, generate plasma, and phase through solid matter. At 30, she will be. We have no model for what she will be at 30, Ohm said. "No." Silence. "Then, what did she do when the scout crew tried to grab her?" Veln almost said something that was not quite a smile. "She drained their power core in under a second." A pause. She was still playing. The chamber was quiet again. Council Elder Ohm looked at the ceiling of the chamber, at the 11,000-year-old architecture above him, the precise geometries of civilization that had spent its entire existence ensuring that nothing grew large enough to challenge it. "The Purge Fleet," he said. "Yes. It was designed for protocol class targets." "Yes. Is it adequate for..." He gestured at the incident report, at the child playing in the pulsar zone with a star in her hands. Veln was quiet for 3 seconds. "I don't know," she said. "That is the most honest answer I have." It was the first time in 400 cycles that Council Elder Ohm had heard that sentence from his military command. He thought about the 11,000-year-old prophecy. The only intervention is immediate. Act before the locks open. The locks had opened. The first generation of what was coming was playing with plasma, in space, and laughing. The second generation hadn't been born yet. Get the Purge fleet moving, he said. And there was something in his voice that was not quite fear, because his species had not experienced fear in 4 millennia, but was the closest thing to it that their biology still remembered how to produce. At what deployment speed? Maximum. In the pickup vehicle, heading back to Facility 7, Ilarasan was asleep. 3-year-olds, regardless of what they can do to warp cores, still need naps. She was curled in the observation seat with the specific compactness of sleeping children, her face smooth, her breathing even. Priya Sun sat next to her and watched her sleep and thought about the plasma ball, the casual, perfect, beautiful rotation of it between those small hands. Dr. Vasquez was in the co-pilot seat, running the incident data on her tablet with the expression of someone building a new model of the universe from scratch. She's going to need training, Priya said. She's 3. I know. Priya looked at her daughter. That's why we need to start now. Vasquez glanced back. She walked through a solid hull, drained an alien power core, and played in a pulsar. What do you train someone like that to do? Priya watched the stars through the observation window. The pulsar was behind them, its slow, precise, lighthouse pulse still visible, still sweeping, still completely indifferent to the extraordinary thing that had happened in its fringe zone. To hold back, she said. Vasquez frowned. You want to train her to be less? No. Priya looked at her daughter again, at the sleeping face, the small hands, curled now, still, the plasma gone and the power resting. I want to train her to choose. There's a difference. The ship moved through space. Behind it, very far away, the pulsar swept its beam. Ahead of it, the thin light of Sol grew incrementally brighter. And somewhere between those 2 points, crossing the distance at maximum Federation deployment speed, 50,000 ships were moving toward a 3-year-old who had eaten their scout's heat and laughed. She was going to need to train very fast. If you enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe to support the channel. Check the end screen for more epic tales. Humanity prevails.